Today we are going to make a horizontal centerpiece. The first thing we are going to do is establish the length of our arrangement. This, of course, will vary on the table length that you are needing. For this purpose, we are going to cut the seam about halfway into the block, which will establish our length for the arrangement. Once you cut one, cut the other so they are the same size. You're going to insert them one on each side of the foam and on the side of the foam. Make sure that they are not resting on the bowl itself, and make sure that they are pushed in an even amount. Watch your notes, don't insert those because then they'll be nice and wobbly. But there you have it. There is the length of your arrangement. The next thing we're going to do is create the height of our arrangement. This is a centerpiece. This is meant to be very long and low. This carnation will be very short and is going to be placed dead center in the foam on top. Now you have an implied line from carnation 1, 3, and 2. The next two carnations, carnations 4 and 5, are going to be used to create the focal points of our arrangement. They're going to also to create the width. 4 and 5 also create the focal area for our arrangement. So it really depends on if your function is a stand-up or sit down function. If it is a stand-up, you want to angle them up slightly at a 45-degree angle. If you're using this at a sit-down function, then you will insert them straight out. In this case, I did give them a slight 45-degree angle upwards just because that was my choice. If you're going to use this as a Thanksgiving centerpiece, then you will need to insert them straight out. Carnations number 6 and 7 are going to create a diagonal line across our arrangement. It is just another implied line to help fill the gap between carnations 1, 2, and 3. They're going to be inserted on the top of the foam at a 45-degree angle. As you can see, if you draw a imaginary line from carnations 6, 3, and 7, they do create a diagonal line. It is a symmetrical arrangement, so what you do to one side, you're going to want to do to the other. So there you have it. It's almost like a flipped mirror image of itself. And there is your skeleton. The next step is going to be greening down. So we talked about cutting our wings last class. You do want to make sure you cut some of those wings out for later usage. We're going to use the tips of our leather leaf to shadow our carnations provided here. So you can see I will cut a tip to go under each of the carnations. You can just gently lift them up and insert a carnation under each of, or insert a piece of leather leaf under each of the carnations. Remember that this is our skeleton, so your greenery should not be too much longer than the skeleton that you have just set. So take a moment and watch as I green down, and we'll talk some more in a minute. At this point, I have inserted a tip under or next to each of the 7 carnations. And now I'm going to go back and cover my mechanics around the rim of my container first, because that is also where my tape is. I want to make sure that I cover those. You do not want to see it. So I'm going to start at the rim of my container. And then the process of greening down is similar to the small round arrangement we did last month, and use those wings to cover as much surface area as possible. Make sure that you don't cut any pieces too short to where it looks like a crater has hit your greenery. You do want to make sure you cover a majority of your foam during this process. We will go back in later and add a different greenery for some texture, along with the filler flower of goldenrod to help fill some of the holes we may have left behind. you can watch as I finish screening down, and you can see it does take a minute, especially in these oblong designs, because what you do to one side, you kind of want to do to the other, because it is meant to be a symmetrical design. Here you can see I finished screening down. I turned it around so you could see every side and every angle. All my greenery looks like it's radiating from that center of the design right around carnation number 3, which is what we were going for. Next, I'm going to be adding in the cushion mums. I only had daisy mum on hand when I did this sample arrangement. We will be using cushion mums, and they are a little bit fuller, so they will cover some more surface area. But it is going to be the same process. We are going to cut a few flower heads off of that main stem, and we are going to save our most open cushion mums for near our focal area. Our focal area was created by carnations 4 and 5, which is what someone would be staring at if they were sitting on the sides of the table. We're going to use the smaller ones near the top, because the focal area is kind of the big shebang. That's where you really want people to focus. That's the beauty. And so we'll use the smaller, more closed cushions to stair step across our arrangement, going in between our carnations. And you can kind of watch here. I always start with the longest ones just because I really need to make sure I have enough stem to make it out that far in that arrangement. And basically what you're doing is creating another diagonal line going the opposite way of the yellow carnations. So take a moment and watch as I insert our daisy mums, and then we will move on to our filler. I just finished placing my last daisy mum. You can kind of see an aerial view. I just lined out some of it basically have a crisscross. You have a line with your yellow carnations, but you also have a line with the cushion mums, or in this case, the daisy mums. Next, I'm going to add the filler. And again, it's super important that you find some filler with some of the longer stems to insert near the longest part of your arrangement. The goldenrod stems can get pretty short, so I definitely use the longer ones for the length, out near the length of the carnations. This is symmetrical. I cannot say that enough. So what you do to one side, you traditionally want to do to the other, just to keep things balanced visually and physically. So you can see yellow is a very heavy color. So it's very bold and it's very full. So it's not going to take a whole lot. Make sure that you're using the angle of the goldenrod to follow that radiating kind of that radiating center from the middle. It should go in line kind of with your leather leaf as it radiates out, and your eye should be able to follow down to the center point, or the focal point. As you can see, I'm finished inserting my goldenrod, and now I'm going to insert my second greenery. I did not have any Oregonia or Pittosporum. What I had on hand for this example was Italian ruscus, but it still gives a different texture to the arrangement, which is the whole purpose of a second greenery. You're going to follow the same thing you kind of did with the filler flower. Find some longer pieces and insert it everywhere. Make sure that you do get the goldenrod and the second greenery throughout the design. It should be unified. It should have repetition, and what you do to one side, you do to the other, which helps also create harmony. So you're just going to take your time, insert your second greenery, keep the shape of the design, follow your implied lines, and you should be good.